The mind is a mirror and a projector, a field of possibility that bends reality in ways most people never pause to consider. For centuries, philosophy spoke of thought as a fleeting wind in the skull, something ephemeral that guided choice but rarely touched the structure of the world. Yet, hidden inside the simple act of thinking lies a technology so powerful it has been veiled under layers of mystery, skepticism, and misunderstanding. That technology is what can be called quantum thinking, a way of perceiving and processing that bypasses the ordinary linear road of effort and struggle, moving directly into alignment with manifestation. The common story told about achievement is built on repetition. Work harder, push longer, sacrifice sleep, delay gratification, and eventually, if fortune smiles, you will achieve what you desire. This narrative has created entire industries of self-help, productivity hacks, and goal-setting systems. And while discipline and perseverance are undeniably valuable, they still operate on the slow track, where time must be purchased with sweat. The human brain, however, has access to a different architecture. Within its neural labyrinth lies the ability to synchronize with the quantum nature of reality itself, making the improbable seem ordinary and the impossible suddenly possible. At its essence, quantum thinking proposes that thoughts are not isolated electrical sparks confined to gray matter. They are vibrations woven into the fabric of reality. Each thought is a frequency, and each frequency is a signal. Just as a radio receiver tunes into invisible waves saturating the air, the universe responds to the frequency of thought by rearranging probabilities. When you understand this, manifestation ceases to be a mystical rumor and becomes a navigable process. The difficulty most people face is not in desiring, but in thinking. Desire is abundant, almost reckless. Every mind overflows with longing. More wealth, better health, deeper love, recognition, freedom, peace. But the mental stream that runs beneath those desires is often polluted with contradiction. A person desires abundance, but thinks in scarcity. They long for connection, but think in fear of rejection. They dream of vitality, but think of fatigue and limitation. It is in this split between desire and thought that reality fractures. Quantum thinking is the art of mending that fracture. It is not positive thinking in the shallow sense of painting over darkness with a smile. It is a deep reconfiguration of mental frequency. To think quantumly is to perceive thought not as private chatter, but as cosmic instruction, to treat the mind as both transmitter and receiver in a universal conversation. When that conversation is coherent, manifestation accelerates. Modern neuroscience quietly confirms what mystics proclaimed. The human brain does not function as a sealed box, but as a network that resonates with electromagnetic and quantum signals. Studies of decision-making reveal that choices arise in subconscious fields before they surface into awareness, suggesting that thought operates beyond the linear narrative we tell ourselves. The subconscious is a quantum processor, collapsing countless possibilities into the singular experience of now. To alter the subconscious is to alter the probabilities it selects, and that alteration begins with conscious thought practiced as frequency, not as mere chatter. This is where the shortcut reveals itself. If one attempts manifestation through effort alone, the road is long, the terrain difficult, and results uncertain. But if one shifts the operating system of thought into quantum alignment, the external rearranges itself with uncanny precision. Instead of chasing, you attract. Instead of forcing, you flow. Instead of striving, you embody. Manifestation ceases to be about acquisition and becomes about resonance. You no longer ask, how can I get what I want? But rather, how can I think as if it already exists? The laws of classical logic insist that cause precedes effect, that thought is merely antecedent to action. But in the quantum view, cause and effect blur. The effect is embedded in the cause, the future entangled with the present. When you think with conviction, you're not waiting for reality to confirm your desire. You're synchronizing with the version of reality where that desire is already true. The brain, through imagination, functions as a bridge into parallel probabilities, and emotion serves as the amplifier that locks the signal into form. This explains why fleeting thoughts rarely manifest, but sustained, emotionally charged thought reshapes reality. The universe does not respond to idle wishes spoken half-heartedly. It responds to frequency stabilized by conviction, repeated until it becomes identity. This is why quantum thinking insists on more than surface affirmation. It requires coherence between belief, thought, and emotion. You cannot say, "I am wealthy," while secretly thinking, "I am broke," and feeling, "I am unworthy." The frequency collapses into static and manifestation stalls. The shortcut works only when coherence is achieved, when every layer of consciousness sings the same note. Part of the hidden power of quantum thinking lies in its relationship to time. Ordinary thinking binds itself to linear chronology. First I must do this, then that, and eventually the outcome will arrive. Quantum thinking collapses time by embodying the outcome in advance. Neuroscience has shown that the brain cannot easily distinguish between vividly imagined experience and physically lived experience. When you think and feel as though the manifestation is already real, your brain wires itself into that version of reality. Your body releases chemicals as if it were already happening. In this way, you move the future into the present, and the present into alignment with the desired future. Skeptics dismiss manifestation as magical thinking, but quantum physics has long overturned the mechanistic certainty of classical science. The observer effect demonstrates that the act of observation changes what is observed. Entanglement shows that particles remain connected across vast distances, altering each other instantaneously. These principles echo in consciousness. Your thought is not a private murmur, but an act of observation and entanglement, collapsing probabilities and influencing outcomes across space and time. The shortcut, then, is not about doing more, but about thinking differently. It is about understanding that manifestation is not created from scratch, but chosen from existing probabilities. Reality is a field of infinite parallel versions, and quantum thinking is the selector. When you master it, you cease to live as a victim of circumstance and begin to live as a sculptor of possibility. Yet mastery demands more than casual interest. It requires discipline not in the external sense of grinding through tasks, but in the internal sense of guarding thought. The mind must be trained like a lens to remain steady on the desired frequency. This means catching stray thoughts of doubt and realigning them, refusing to indulge in mental rehearsals of failure, and continuously charging the field with conviction. Emotion becomes fuel, visualization becomes blueprint, and repetition becomes reinforcement. This is why meditation, affirmation, and visualization are not empty rituals, but technologies of alignment. In meditation, you quiet the noise that scatters frequency. In affirmation, you speak the language of coherence. In visualization, you practice the reality until it becomes indistinguishable from memory. Together, they create a gravitational pull that draws manifestation toward you, not in superstition, but in resonance. The true secret nobody told you is that the universe is not withholding from you. It is not testing you or making you earn through suffering. It is reflecting you. The world is not separate from your mind, but entangled with it, mirroring the frequencies you stabilize. When your thinking becomes quantum, manifestation is not a battle, but a mirror held up to your consciousness. The deeper one explores quantum thinking, the more one realizes it is not merely a technique for manifestation, but a fundamental orientation toward reality. It is the shift from linear to holographic perception, from seeing the world as a sequence of isolated events to experiencing it as an interconnected field where every possibility already exists. The linear mind insists that one must climb step by step up a ladder. The quantum mind sees that ladders are illusions, that one can move horizontally into a parallel rung where the desired reality already vibrates. This shift is not a metaphor. It is a neurological and energetic reality. The human brain is an electrochemical organ, pulsing with currents that generate measurable frequencies. When EEG devices record brain waves, they reveal the orchestra of delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma rhythms that dictate perception and consciousness. These rhythms are not static. They fluctuate with thought and emotion. What is less spoken of is that they also radiate beyond the skull, interacting with electromagnetic fields that extend into the environment. Your thought is not trapped inside, it is broadcast. And because the universe itself is an ocean of frequencies, your thought becomes an active participant in shaping what unfolds. To think quantumly is to understand that focusing on lack reinforces lack, that rehearsing fear imprints fear, that dwelling on limitation crystallizes limitation. Yet, the opposite is equally true. The sustained rehearsal of abundance attracts conditions for abundance. The vivid embodiment of health accelerates healing. The emotional rehearsal of love magnetizes connection. The brain, through neuroplasticity, wires itself according to repeated thought, while the field of probability bends to the frequency of that thought. This is not hope dressed as pseudoscience, but a convergence of neuroscience and metaphysics pointing toward the same truth. Thought is not passive. Still, many sabotage themselves unconsciously. They practice what can be called quantum incoherence. They affirm abundance while vibrating in fear. They visualize success while harboring guilt. They rehearse joy while secretly identifying with struggle. The field they project is not unified, and the result is static, manifestation delayed, distorted, or denied. The shortcut of quantum thinking demands coherence. Coherence means the thought, the emotion, and the belief align into one frequency. Just as a laser produces power by aligning waves into coherence, the human mind produces manifestation by aligning every layer of consciousness into a single signal. This explains why some people appear to manifest effortlessly. Their inner world is not cluttered with contradiction. They may not use the language of quantum fields, yet their thought, feeling, and belief are aligned, and the universe reflects that alignment. Others, despite years of effort, remain stuck because their signal is scattered, their thoughts canceling each other out in interference patterns. Quantum thinking is about becoming a laser instead of a flickering bulb. What many overlook is that coherence is not created solely through willpower. One cannot simply command oneself to feel worthy or abundant when years of conditioning have wired the opposite. Instead, the mind must be retrained through repetition, imagination, and emotional rehearsal. The subconscious does not respond to logic, but to experience. Thus, by repeatedly imagining a desired outcome with emotion, you overwrite the subconscious narrative. The shortcut bypasses years of struggle by rewiring the blueprint directly, not by fighting external battles, but by reprogramming the inner signal. Another layer of this process is the relationship between consciousness and uncertainty. The quantum world reveals that uncertainty is not a flaw, but the foundation of possibility. In every moment, countless probabilities exist, waiting to collapse into actuality. Most people, however, fear uncertainty and cling to familiar patterns, even when those patterns produce suffering. Quantum thinking, in contrast, embraces uncertainty as creative potential. It treats the unknown not as threat, but as canvas. When you step into uncertainty with a coherent frequency, you guide the collapse of probability into alignment with your intention. Consider how athletes enter states of flow where improbable feats appear effortless. A basketball player makes a shot from impossible distance. A gymnast executes a move never before attempted. A sprinter transcends their previous limits. In those moments, their thought and body synchronize into a field beyond calculation. They are not bound by linear odds, but by resonance with possibility. This is quantum thinking in action, not superstition, but lived experience where the improbable becomes actual through alignment. Science, too, offers whispers of confirmation. Experiments on intention and random event generators show that focused human thought can produce statistical deviations from chance. Research on the placebo effect demonstrates that belief and expectation can produce physiological changes rivaling pharmaceutical drugs. Studies of meditation reveal alterations in brain structure, immune function, and even genetic expression. These are not minor curiosities, but evidence that consciousness bends matter and probability. The shortcut to manifestation is not about bending the laws of physics, but about participating in them more consciously. But the question arises, if manifestation can be so effortless, why do so few live it? The answer is not lack of potential, but lack of awareness. Most people are hypnotized by appearances, taking the current reality as final truth rather than as a snapshot of past thought. They focus so intently on what is that they forget to tune into what could be. Their frequency is chained to present circumstance, and so the future replicates the past. Quantum thinking demands the courage to unhook from appearances, to tune into the invisible possibility rather than the visible limitation. This is why imagination is sacred. Imagination is not fantasy, but interface. It is the faculty through which the mind communicates with probability. When you imagine vividly, you are not escaping reality, but programming it. You are rehearsing the frequency until it imprints both your subconscious and the field. Einstein himself remarked that imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is bounded by what is known, while imagination embraces all that could be. In this light, imagination is not childish, but quantum. It is the paintbrush of manifestation. Yet, imagination without emotion is weak. The universe responds to frequency, and emotion is the amplifier. A thought felt with passion resonates far more powerfully than a thought whispered without conviction. This is why gratitude is such a potent practice. Gratitude assumes the manifestation has already occurred. When you feel gratitude for a reality not yet visible, you lock your frequency into the version of reality where it is already true. Gratitude bends time, collapsing the distance between desire and experience. It is not polite ritual, but energetic technology. In practical terms, the discipline of quantum thinking unfolds as a daily practice of awareness. It means noticing when stray thoughts of doubt arise and redirecting them before they seed probability. It means devoting time to vivid visualization, not as escapism, but as conscious rehearsal. It means cultivating emotions that align with your desired outcome, feeling abundance before wealth arrives, feeling health before healing is complete, feeling love before the partner appears. It means holding coherence even when the external world has not yet caught up. The shortcut nobody told you is that manifestation is not about creating from nothing, but about tuning into what already exists. Reality is a symphony of probabilities, and your mind is both the instrument and the player. When you tune yourself, the symphony reorganizes. This is not mystical privilege reserved for the gifted. It is the architecture of consciousness available to all who dare to think differently. To live within quantum thinking is to adopt an identity that no longer negotiates with possibility, but assumes it as natural law. Most approaches to manifestation treat it as an external skill, like learning to play piano or practicing a foreign language. But the deeper truth is that manifestation flows not from technique, but from identity. Who you believe yourself to be dictates the signal you project, and the signal you project dictates the reality you attract. This is why temporary affirmations often fail. A person may repeat, "I am abundant," for weeks, but if their core identity remains tethered to scarcity, the words remain surface noise. The subconscious, which drives 95% of behavior, overrides the conscious declaration. Quantum thinking cuts deeper. It asks not what you wish to have, but who you must become for that reality to be inevitable. Manifestation is not about gluing desires onto an unchanged self. It is about shifting the self so profoundly that the desired reality becomes the only logical reflection. Identity is plastic. Neuroscience reveals that the brain rewires itself continuously through neuroplasticity. Each repeated thought strengthens certain neural circuits while pruning others. If you identify as someone unlucky, your brain sculpts itself to confirm that belief, filtering perception to notice misfortune and reinforcing the cycle. But if you practice identifying as fortunate, abundant, magnetic, your brain rewires itself to confirm that, filtering perception to notice opportunity. Quantum thinking leverages this plasticity deliberately, turning identity into the most powerful manifestation tool. One of the most transformative practices is the use of what could be called identity rehearsal. Instead of merely visualizing the external outcome, you rehearse being the version of yourself who already lives that outcome. You imagine not the lottery check in your hand, but the calm confidence of a wealthy individual navigating daily life. You feel not the perfect relationship as an external arrival, but the inner openness, joy, and trust of someone already loved. By embodying identity rather than chasing outcome, you collapse the gap between desire and reality. The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. Emotion, again, is the amplifier. If you rehearse identity with detachment, the signal is weak. But if you charge it with gratitude, joy, and conviction, it resonates powerfully. This is why rituals matter. A morning meditation infused with gratitude, a visualization session where you vividly feel the desired reality, a nightly reflection where you mentally rehearse the day you wish to live tomorrow. These practices are not superstitions, but exercises in frequency alignment. They stabilize coherence day after day until identity shifts at the root. But quantum thinking also requires releasing the addiction to control. The linear mind insists on micromanaging the how, planning every step, anticipating every obstacle, obsessing over timing. The quantum mind surrenders the how and anchors in the what. It trusts the field to orchestrate details beyond comprehension. This is not passivity, but alignment. When you maintain coherence, the right opportunities, people, and events appear with synchronicity. What once felt like coincidence reveals itself as resonance. You are no longer forcing outcomes, but magnetizing them. Resistance often arises in the form of doubt. The external world may appear unchanged, and the mind is tempted to collapse into old frequencies of fear and impatience. Here lies the critical threshold where most abandon the process. They treat the absence of immediate evidence as proof of failure, not realizing that the field is already reorganizing behind scenes. Quantum thinking requires persistence, not of effort, but of alignment. The farmer who plants a seed does not dig it up every day to check its progress. They water it, trust it, and allow time to unfold. Likewise, manifestation requires faith not in blind hope, but in the unseen architecture of probability already shifting toward you. This patience is made easier by understanding that time itself is not linear but quantum. From the perspective of physics, past, present, and future coexist as layers of probability. When you tune into the frequency of a desired future, you're not waiting for it to arrive, but collapsing it into the present. What appears as waiting is simply the alignment of external perception catching up to internal resonance. In this light, impatience is a frequency of lack, while patience is a frequency of abundance. To remain patient is to remain coherent. Practical application of quantum thinking can be summarized into 3 pillars: awareness, rehearsal, and coherence. Awareness means monitoring thought as frequency, catching incoherent patterns of fear, doubt, or limitation before they entangle with probability. Rehearsal means deliberately practicing the desired identity through imagination, emotion, and repetition. Coherence means aligning thought, belief, and feeling so that no signal contradicts another. Together, these pillars transform manifestation from mystical hope into disciplined resonance. The implications stretch far beyond personal goals. When individuals begin to live quantumly, collective reality shifts as well. Societies are, after all, networks of thought. A culture dominated by fear, scarcity, and division manifests war, inequality, and exploitation. A culture aligned with abundance, cooperation, and unity manifests innovation, healing, and peace. Quantum thinking on the collective level is nothing less than civilization redesign. Every coherent mind becomes a tuning fork that influences the field, amplifying possibility for others. This is why movements of mass meditation, global intention experiments, and shared affirmations produce measurable effects. Consciousness is contagious, and yet, the shortcut remains largely untaught because it undermines the narrative of struggle. Systems of power thrive on convincing people that success must be purchased through sacrifice, that scarcity is natural, that control lies outside oneself. To tell people that reality reflects their thought is to empower them beyond manipulation. Thus, the knowledge of quantum thinking lingers in the margins, whispered in mysticism, hinted in science, embodied by a few who discover it through intuition. But it is not meant to be secret. It is meant to be remembered. To live quantumly is not to deny challenge, but to meet it differently. When obstacles arise, the linear mind sees failure. The quantum mind sees feedback. Each obstacle is information about coherence, an invitation to refine thought, release contradiction, and stabilize frequency. Manifestation is not about never facing difficulty, but about using difficulty as calibration. Every setback is a mirror reflecting some hidden incoherence, and once aligned, the obstacle dissolves. Ultimately, quantum thinking is not about shortcuts to possessions, but about mastery of being. It is about realizing that consciousness is not trapped inside matter, but entwined with the cosmos. When you think, you are sculpting reality. When you feel, you are amplifying it. When you believe, you are becoming it. The shortcut is not hidden behind rituals or secrets, but waiting in the way you think each moment. Every thought is a doorway, every belief a bridge, every emotion a frequency. Manifestation is not a someday event, but a constant unfolding. To awaken to this truth is to see life differently. The mundane becomes magical. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The impossible becomes inevitable. You no longer chase after dreams as if they are distant. You live as though they are already here, and reality bends to confirm it. This is not illusion, but alignment. The shortcut nobody told you is that you have always been manifesting, but now you can do it consciously, coherently, and quantumly.